Hey everybody, this video I want to talk a bit about being interesting on the guitar. Not a subject people approach much, I know. Not properly, anyway, as I've found. That's probably why so few musicians are interesting in their music. They're taught to play the same style that others have played, and so only innovate a small amount at the most. So I want to talk to you about what to do to be interesting and how to avoid the traps of commonplace music. And what to do from the very beginning as you're just learning guitar. First of all, I would not recommend getting a teacher. When you limit yourself to a teacher, you learn to play just like your teacher. He or she shows you what they know and what they like, and your scope of knowledge isn't broad. It's limited to that person. And I find that it's just too much of an investment in that one person. What I suggest is getting a guitar playing manual to teach you the fundamentals of playing. A good one. I've only ever used one, and you can check it out here at this link. I'll also put it in the description for you. You won't have to spend a small fortune on private teachers, which get expensive at $20 to $40 an hour, and you'll be proud that you taught yourself in the end. It can take you from beginner to advanced guitarist, this manual. You don't really need anything else except learning the correct way to practice and then actually practicing. So check it out. Next, learn basic guitar theory as a basis for where to start being interesting on guitar. Music is not really as confusing as it appears to be. The problem with it is that it uses an arcane set of symbols that is not very easy to understand at first. We're stuck with it though because so much music we have written is in the current method. Music doesn't exist on a page and in symbols and notation, however. It only exists in our head and how we perceive it, and how it sounds to us. It's purely psychological. It's like using the word red to describe a color, red as the symbol. The symbols we use are just an attempt to put to paper what we experience in our heads. Therefore, the feeling of what is right to play is more important than what you see on paper or what you write on paper. But it's a good idea to learn our current system of music to be able to communicate with others about music, and rest assured, once you learn a bit about how it works, the rest will come easy. The manual I mentioned teaches you all of this and scales and everything you'll need to know to play all popular music. Scales are just a set of notes that sound good together. You could create your own scale if you want right now by just going to your guitar, selecting a few notes, and playing only those notes, and you've created a scale. And if you just use those notes, that scale will have a certain feeling to it, and that's why people use scales, to make the whole song sound sort of uniform, the same. Also, get yourself a map of the notes on the fretboard in standard tuning. I have placed a link to one in the description for you. You'll see it. It's at beginnersguitarlessons.net, and it says /fretboard.jpg. The strings are normally tuned to EAD-GBE, from thick to thin, and this is called standard tuning. And the tuning, what this does is change the lowest note each string plays, and that is at the nut at the top of the guitar, at the head of the guitar. And then each fret up, as you hold the frets down, is one what you call a semitone higher. After you learn some basic theory and get yourself a map of all the notes, just start playing them and seeing which sound good together and which sound bad. Play two notes at the same time and see how it rings out in your head. For example, if you play the 5th fret thick E string and the 5th fret A string at the same time, you're playing an A note on the E string and a D note on the A string because you're holding down the frets at these notes. These notes sound good together because they are a certain distance apart. That we know sounds good together. That's 5 semitones. They're actually 5 semitones apart. And that's an interval. This is called an interval. And the interval has a name. 5 semitones has a name. And the interval is a perfect fourth, which is confusing, I know. Now, keep one finger on the 5th fret on the E string, but hold down the 6th fret on the A string. This interval is called the tritone. It's 6 semitones apart. And it sounds like what you might call bad. It doesn't sound good when you hear it for the first time. Of course, it has its musical uses, but due to its sound, it was actually outlawed by the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages because it was thought that the interval was evil. Pretty funny, huh? It does actually sound evil, though, when you listen to it. And you can play that same interval anywhere on the guitar, and it will always give you that same sort of impression. Same with any interval. So, what scales are a collection of notes from a root note, just arbitrarily chosen, and then intervals of that note. And how that entire scale sounds together is what the piece will sound like if you use that scale uniformly over the entire musical piece. Now, to get to the point of all of this, what I want you to do is find out for yourself what sounds good together and what doesn't, and create your own musical sound rather than relying on something that already exists. Or at least use something that already exists but alter it so that it's given new life. The idea behind music is to affect people emotionally in some way and to surprise and excite them, and it's never to bore them. Don't let musical standards get the best of you. Only learn songs if you're going to cover them and breathe new life into them, like, say, Jimi Hendrix's cover of All Along the Watchtower, which is originally by Bob Dylan. Both versions are great songs in their own right, but they're different. And so only learn songs if you're going to do that, or to practice your guitar technique and to perfect it. Take an artist like Joni Mitchell as well. The reason why so much of her music sounds so unique, if you listen to it, it's very unique sounding. It's because she uses so many strange tunings and strange chords that people don't usually use. She invented many of them herself. Many of them had never been used in popular music before. Bass players who would play with her wouldn't exactly know what to do, and in many cases, because they were so focused on using standard scales, but she would just tell them, play what sounds good, and they would have to deal with it. There is no such thing as a perfect piece of music, because music is so subjective and people experience it in so many different ways. So don't ever strive to play somebody else's music perfectly. Anyway, if you want to learn more about how to play guitar properly, how to learn the fastest way, and how to ultimately become a very interesting guitarist, see this next video as well that I made, which has way more important tips that all beginners should know as they're starting out learning the guitar. And also check out that course that I mentioned earlier as well. I put the link for that in the description. So I hope you liked the video, and cheers.